The body is like Mary, and each of us has a Jesus inside. Who is not in labor? Holy labor. Every creature is. See the value of true art. When the earth or a soul is in the mood to create beauty, for the witness might then for a moment know beyond any doubt, God is really there within, so innocently drawing life from us with her umbilical universe. Infinite existence. Though also needing to be born. Yes, God also needs to be born. Birth from a hand's loving touch. Birth from a song. From a dance. Breathing life into this world. The body is like Mary, and each of us has a Christ within.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Church Online. My name is Kevin Bates, and you are tuned in to Resonate Christian Church. If you want to find out more about us, you can go to our website, resonatechristian.church, or you can download our app. If you go to the Google Play Store or Apple Store and just type in Resonate Christian Church, you'll see our app. You can download it. You can either on the website or the app, you can look at all of our happenings, whether they be our live or online gatherings, or you can look at all the old media as well. All the archive media is there to peruse through. So all of our talks, interviews, and our Church Online broadcasts and live podcasts are all there. So you can look at our series through the last, I think it was about a year. You can look at the last year of all of our material and get caught up, or you can look at a series if you wanted to. You can just find all that who we are and what we are about online on the website or on the app. So today is the last Sunday of the year. As we move from 2025 to 2026, just want to say Happy New Year, everyone. I'm grateful that you are tuned into us, but also those that are a part of our in-person community listening today. I'm really thankful for each and every one of you. We just exited the Christmas holiday day and Christmas Eve service, and this month in December has been a great month of brunch with Santa, and we had some great interview times, and we also had our Christmas Eve service. And so all of that was just spectacular. And I'm really grateful for everyone who has helped this month and been involved in what we do. And if you joined us and were participating, we're grateful that you tuned in and also were in person at our gatherings. So today we're just going to talk about the new year. And really, it's going to be, I guess, a hard conversation. I'm not going to give a lot of answers today. I want to warn you about this talk because it's not a neat solution. We are in a season of reflection and kind of evaluation post-Christmas leading into the new year as this 1 week period of time where we are coming off of the holiday hustle bustle. And we sometimes spend time evaluating just who we are, where we're going. And it is a good time to put down some goals. And maybe you're a resolution creator. I do like goals better than resolutions. Seems like resolutions come and go by January 31st, but goals could possibly be set for longer term and quarter by quarter. I would encourage you to do that. But today we're going to talk about we're not going to talk about a neat solution to our evaluation. We're not going to give 5 simple takeaways like a worksheet or something that you can work through, because most of the questions that we have in life in an evaluation time are too complex to solve in a single morning or during a talk in a span of a talk. So what I do want to raise is a challenge and a problem and a question for us all, because the problems for us, a problem many of us, we quietly carry lots of problems, but there is a common problem that many of us carry when it comes to our spirituality. And I do want to address our spiritual lives today, a problem that you may recognize immediately or later when you finally slow down. This could be a problem in your life, but many of us carry a common problem that I'm going to state today. So here's the question. Do you ever feel like faith isn't working the way that you thought it would? Do you ever feel like faith isn't working in your life the way that you thought it would? What you were trained to be, and you went to church for years, and you've been involved in different churches and such over a lifetime, and the faith that was taught to you, do you ever feel like that's not working out the way that it was taught to you it would, or that you believed that it would? Not necessarily dramatically, I would say, not the burn it all down type of way that you're going to see like dramatic changes, but the quiet changes, the subtle changes, like you followed the rules, you did what you were supposed to, you showed up, you tried to be good, you tried to be faithful, kind, ethical, spiritual, all the things. You went to church and maybe even old school Sunday school, and you joined a community group during the week or whatever, and yet something still feels off. You're just not quite what you thought. Things are not quite what you thought they were going to be in your spiritual life. Something feels off. Maybe you thought that you would have certain answers to your life by now, and you see other people getting those answers. You might see a friend getting their answers, but you're not getting your answers. I don't get my answers, my questions answered. Or why do I continually try to do the right thing, but I end up empty when I'm seeing all these other people seem like they're making different choices or even right choices, and they're feeling fulfilled, they're feeling an experience, they're feeling full, and you're feeling empty. Or maybe your soul feels tired. Maybe you are a tired soul, tired in your soul. Many of us, for many of us, this doesn't show up necessarily as a crisis. It doesn't show up as a crisis even of faith. Maybe you still believe in God. Maybe you still are a spiritual person. But it shows up as unfulfillment. Maybe you're dissatisfied with your life. You're not going anywhere. You feel taken from. You feel like life is weighing you down, especially maybe right now. So this time between the 26th of December and the 31st, of December and the 31st of December, sometimes this time is that evaluation time that you look back on the year and you go, wow, what did I accomplish? What did I do? And then you say, well, I have a decent job. I have a decent place to live. I took care of that place to live. I have a decent car. I have decent friends and relationships, and my spouse is great. maybe even a decent vacation this year that you took. You went somewhere and something is still missing. Something is not quite right. So you look at and you doom scroll through Instagram, you do your Insta scroll, you begin to compare, you look at what other people are doing, and you keep like moving through different websites, wishing that you coulda, shoulda, woulda, and you wonder quietly, is this all that I'm going to do? Is this all that I'm going to accomplish? This time of year does make that worse. I would say that it is dark outside for us that live in the Portland metro area. It is wet outside, it's dreary outside, but also we're coming off of a holiday season where we've had celebration times. Maybe you went to some of these events that were offered that maybe even we offered. They're exciting. Lots and lots of people are in the room. We're celebrating. We're grateful. Maybe your Christmas was traditional where you passed around gifts. Maybe you did a traditional dinner with family. Maybe you just took a quiet day and you just relaxed all day and you just maybe just ate and sat and, jones through movies. Whatever your Christmas looked like, this time of year, sometimes coming off of all that, this time of year, it makes our evaluation times sometimes worse. So we review, we tally, we measure the dids and the didn'ts. We might be scared of what we didn't accomplish or scared of what we have to accomplish in the future. Maybe the didn'ts outweighed the dids this year. Shame starts whispering in our ear. You could have been further along by now. You could have been out of debt by now. You could have had saved more money by now. I believe that across all traditions, cultures, centuries, that humans have always asked this question: is there a way to live that doesn't slowly hollow us out? Because one of the reasons why we're experiencing this eval disappointment, if you are, it's because the way that we lived this year could have hollowed us, could have just taken our soul away. That we've done so much, or that our performance-based mentality has been so great that we feel hollowed, that we feel kind of empty. I would say in the Christian tradition, Jesus addresses the ache, addresses this hollowing out. In the book of John, Jesus speaks of anxious followers, and there's these followers who feel disoriented, uncertain about the future. Maybe that's you today. And he tells them to not let their hearts be troubled, then offers this line: I am the way and the truth and the life. Do not let your hearts be troubled. I am the way, the truth, and the life. And it goes on in the book of John. We usually emphasize a lot of times in spirituality the truth, where we're so focused on exactness. I was just reading some online theological posts, and I just had to get off of them because the comments and such, it was just all about exactness. And I would say in my life, and I would say this true about the Bible even teaches this, and my relationship with God has shown me this, to be very, I guess, cautious. Very cautious of the certainty doctrine. If you hear somebody and you're being taught something that's so exact and certain that this is the way life is supposed to turn out, or this is the way that your life will turn out if you do A, B, and C. If you are following that kind of certainty doctrine, I would say you are emphasizing too imbalanced, overweighted on the truth. I had to get off those posts because they were just making me, in a sense, it was creating anxiety in me because I just couldn't believe so many people were trying to exact somebody's belief system or the path that they had chosen to take. Sometimes we emphasize, like, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. We emphasize the belief side of things in that too, where if we just believe and if we follow, I'm just following, right? Well, that in a sense kind of sends us down this path of, I guess, the wandering path. We're just wandering through life without any like any kind of like connecting the dots of the path, like one foot in front of the other, or we're moving through life without any kind of plan. I'm just following God's plan, whatever that is today. And we emphasize that side of our religiosity. I would say both of those, exactness and kind of wandering, are very religious principles. You can become addicted to those principles. I know two people right now in my life. One is a truth monger and one is a wandering soul. And those two people are, honestly, they go through a lot of trouble. They experience a lot of trouble because they're too emphasized and weighted, I think, on those two ideas, the truth or the belief side of things. But rarely we talk about the way. And Jesus does say, I am the way and the truth and the life. So we don't emphasize the way a lot. And I think that the way matters, the way that we do things, the way that we say things. I mean, honestly, the way that you say things does matter. What you say and don't say does matter and can hurt or take away from somebody's experience in life. And I think that it's important that we learn to communicate and do things in a way that Jesus would want us to do. I believe that Jesus came to this earth. I don't believe that Jesus came to, die on some cross and that was it, right? And resurrect, and now he's gone, and hey, that's it. That was the show. And I get to be baptized into that, and that's all I do to get into heaven. That's not really what the Jesus message is about. Is Jesus came to reveal God, that Jesus came to show God, and this is who God is. And so Jesus and his way is very important when he says, I am the way. So how you do something matters just as much as what you're doing. How you're doing it does matter. And I would say just as much. So if you're just a total jerk doing your thing, I would say that's not going to win over a lot of teammates in your cause. So we can tell the truth with ultimate cruelty. And I've seen that this last couple of years, last probably 10 years, I've seen that just explode in our culture, where when we tell the truth, we do it in such cruel ways, and we back that up. We say, well, I'm just telling the truth, and truth hurts, right? And so we say things and communicate in a way that's just honestly really hurtful, harmful, and almost traumatizing in a sense. Because when you have a collective voice, thousands and thousands of people speaking the same way in a very unkind way. Is it better to be right or kind? And I would say it's better to be kind. Jesus would teach that it's better to be kind than just right. And so we try to be right, but we still cause harm. And I want to emphasize that first, because the way does matter, and how we speak and what we believe is the right way. And then we tear down others when we do it. It's just not the way that Jesus wants us to live. And most people in life have encountered others that are very technically correct, but emotionally completely unsafe or unavailable. I mean, you might be technically correct, and you might be the richest person in the world and technically correct, and completely an emotional displaced or completely emotionally immature and unsafe. So that's why the early followers of Jesus weren't actually called people of theology. They weren't even called Christians. They weren't called names like that. They were basically called the people of the way, because people saw the way that they were living and what they were doing, how they were selling their possessions, giving to the poor, how they met in homes, how they had communion. They met in communion. And so the early followers were called the people of the way. They weren't just people that believed in things, they were devoted to things. They were devoted to the apostles' teaching, breaking of bread, and prayer. They were devoted to those things. That was the way. They sold their, I said that, Acts 2:40, 1 and following. you will see that they sold possessions, they met in homes, they gave to one another, they loved each other in a very different way than the empire of Rome was speaking to live. So when you look closely at the life of Christ, you see something very striking. I think is he wasn't some like crazy, frantic, rushed, driven by scarcity type person. He walked along pathways and noticed others. He stopped, he rested, he withdrew to be alone. He lived from a sense of like enough, where there's enough for everyone. So the feeding of the 5,000, when the basket was opened, everyone else opened their baskets and shared as well. So he lived from a sense, I would say, of enough. And I would say that that's uncomfortable, but not anxiety producing. It's uncomfortable because most of us, I guess, don't live that way. We're very performance based. We live anxiously, we live overstimulated, we live chronically busy, and that's kind of the medals that, in a sense, we wear. We measure our worth from productivity. We confuse, I think, sometimes exhaustion with importance. As long as we're busy and exhausted, we've done important things, even though we were a complete ass all along the way. So I think that we confuse exhaustion with importance. And somewhere along the way, we start believing that if we pushed harder, then we would finally arrive somewhere. That if we pushed harder, we would finally arrive at success. And I think that people that do that, many of them, including myself, have great intentions when they're doing these things, but they become very harmful along the way. So here's the hard truth that I've had to face in my life is the way I've done meaningful work many times was slowly destroying me and the others around me. And not because the work was wrong, maybe it was all the right things and it was all good things, but not because the intentions were bad either. My heart was in the right place. I wanted to accomplish these things, but because the way possibly was rooted in maybe shame, it was rooted in fear, it was rooted in I'm falling behind, it was rooted in I'm not being enough, I need to do more. It was rooted in those kinds of things, maybe disappointment. Maybe I was afraid I was disappointing God, maybe I was afraid of disappointing others. Of course, I'm always disappointing myself. So that's how when you are living in that doing meaningful work, and the way that we've done it slowly takes away our soul. So when I look at some wisdom literature in ancient times, I read stuff like this. There is a path that seems right to a person, but in the end it leads to death. And I would say that many of us in this very busy, very connected, technologically advanced, AI-generated type performance-based life, which we're all living right now, I would say that path seems right, but the way that we're going about it possibly is leading to our death. So the most dangerous paths many times look very productive. And I have almost made decisions that literally 30 days later, looking back on that decision, I'm like, wow, I'm glad I didn't bootstrap myself to that. I would be completely in crisis right now. But the decision that I said no to definitely was a decision that was okay. It was right. It was noble. It was literally what I thought and everyone around me thought was the right thing to do. But circumstances, A plus B did not equal C, right? It did not pan out. The algebra math was not X equals positive. It was X equals just complete down. And I made the decision no, based on just, okay, it wasn't, X wasn't high enough in the number. The equation didn't equal +1, right? It equaled 0. And I'm like, when something equals just a net value of 0, I need to question, is that really worth the time, right? In my product capitalistic mindset, because I own businesses and such things, that I think in those realms. I think in numbers, I think in productivity, but I also, the older I get, the more it's like, could we be smarter about this? Could we be kinder about this? Could we be more compassionate in the way that we handle things and not so reactive and driven and performance based and treating people like objects instead of human beings? Because when we live in this performance based, scarcity driven, fear motivated lifestyle, I would say that drains the life out of us. X now equals negative. And when you're in that negative solution, you're in trouble. So I want to invite us to a different invitation in this. In Matthew, Jesus offers an invitation that sounds completely irresponsible to our modern lifestyles. It offers complete irresponsibility. In Matthew, it says, "Come to me, all who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." Not instructions, not a checklist, but an invitation. And in Jesus and his teachings, he uses a yoke and he uses the image of a shared tool. And a yoke is what they would put on the breast and shoulders of oxen or cattle or whatever animal that they would use at the time. And in modern times too, the yoke pulled the cart or it pulled the plow. And so when one animal got in front of the other, it was imbalanced. So the yoke wasn't at optimal efficiency. So when you're yoked correctly, not buff yoked, but yoked correctly with the animals, they're pulling at the same time. And when you're having that kind of shared experience, the point isn't more effort. The point is a shared pace or even a shared space because you're looking to your right and you're standing. So I used to do this exercise with leadership that I would put them in a circle and I would kind of face them towards each other. And I would say, create a great circle. And then they would create the circle and I would say, create a better circle. And how 9 times out of 10, they would create the better circle by kind of getting closer and then closer and closer. And I would just continually say, create a better circle, create a better circle. It was an emotional intelligence exercise with business leaders and church leaders and stuff that I used to host coaching sessions and stuff. So I'd create a better circle. And over the 5 minutes or whatever that we were trying to create a better circle, eventually, literally what would happen is they would be so close that the only decision that they could make is to remove people from the circle to get tighter. So they would start ejecting people from their circle, like excommunicating them, getting rid of them, firing people from the circle, getting rid of them so they could be a tighter circle. And I just continued this path. And then eventually it was just we four no more, right? I mean, it was just the 4 people standing there that were optimally sized and weighted and height so that they can make the very best circle. And then I would stop and I'd say, look around you. You've literally lost your entire team. You've literally lost everyone around you. And it's basically you doing all the work. And I think that in a performance-based life, in a scarcity-driven mindset, in a fear foundational action plan, when you are living in that kind of value system, all the weight is on your shoulders because it's you doing everything because you're in 100% control because you can do the best job. You know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And that is a lot of pressure and that guts us from the inside out. But the yoke means that you are with others, moving in a pace, in a shared space. So what was the best circle? The best the circle was everyone gets in a circle again and we make a big circle and everyone's faced towards one another. And I said, now turn around and face outward and look forward. And that was the best circle. You knew you were with everybody, you knew you were with a team, and you saw the horizon and the direction that you needed to go. That was the best circle. So the shared space and the shared pace, Jesus is saying the point is not more effort. The point is not joining your schedule or joining some religious pressure or joining some achievement culture. The point is being joined in moving together, and that means lighter. So community is crucial. So if you feel gutted spiritually, joining community, being partnered with community is a crucial step, I think, for your faith. If you feel your faith is just flat, if you're like, this is not panning out the way that I think it's supposed to be panning out. Number one, the way is important. And the way that I want to encourage us to be is in community. And if you can make any decision this year, is to be in community with other people, to share that experience, even if it's just for a little time during each week, that you could share the burden, the prayer, the thought, even the gratefulness and the gratitude, and teach each other how to be that kind of faithful follower. But another thought that I have for us is not only that different invitation to be restful with the yoke, but also know that stillness is not failure. And this is something that our culture is failing at immensely. Wisdom tells us across every faith tradition, no matter if you're Episcopalian, Baptist, Buddhist, if you're Muslim, if you're Jewish, if any faith tradition, seek anything, stillness is never laziness. Every religion has that in common. Rest is not weakness. Every religion has that in common. Slowing down does not mean that you are quitting. Slowing down does not mean you are quitting. Stillness is not laziness. Rest is not weakness. Slowing down is not quitting. Yet we resist that because we're performing and we have to perform. So stillness focuses maybe sometimes inward, or just opens our mind to face the parts of ourselves that we're trying to outrun. We're trying to escape from maybe the hurts, habits, hang-ups inside of ourselves that we really struggle with. And it makes us just sit and possibly heal. I think that transformation requires pauses. I think creating new boundaries requires pauses and help from others. So that yoke again. And this is why seeking therapy, getting in a quiet space with wise counsel, embodying some practices, mental health care, I think is not a lack of faith at all. It's actually progress in your life. So yoga, walking, breathing, routines, and silence, I think these are not escapes. They're actually recalibration. I remember when in the old cars, when we first got GPS units, in the old cars, the screen would come up and you would follow a map. And then when you got off on the wrong way, it would say recalibrating. And it would actually say that, recalibrating. And so it would recalibrate and give you a new map. And I think that just stillness and thoughtfulness and mindfulness is a way to recalibrate our lives. I hope that you take this time to do that. So here's a question that I'm going to leave with you, because I said I wouldn't offer solutions today, because sitting in quietness and joining in community, you're going to have to embrace some things in there that are the solution. So those are not necessarily solution worksheets for you to work through. They're actually just potentials for the environment of solutions that can be given to you. So instead, I'm going to leave you with a question, one that maybe will carry you over the next coming year. So wondering if the problem that you're facing right now, whether it be that spiritual emptiness or unsurety of the future, isn't your sincerity, but maybe you're sincere, maybe you're doing the right thing, maybe you're doing good things, but maybe it's the way that it's being lived out in your life. Maybe it's a rhythm problem. Maybe it's a rest problem or a community problem. Maybe the invitation isn't trying harder, but living it maybe a little bit differently. Not more pressure, not more shame, not more striving, but a quiet, gentler way of doing life. And whether you name that presence in those quiet spaces, whether you name it God, whether you name it Jesus, love, truth, wisdom, whatever you're naming that, your intention, the invitation remains the same by Jesus, is that he says, come to me, those who are weary, and I will give you rest. Come and rest and learn a different way to be human. I don't think that that's going to fix everything. It's not going to fix your internal angst. It's not going to fix, necessarily all of our mental illnesses. It's not going to fix our problems and our challenges of taking care of life, but it might finally give you back a little bit of your soul. And that's my encouragement for you for the year 2026.